All right, Shell. So today's video is a little bit of an oddball because you can watch it at any point during the semester, and I think that most of you guys will have picked some of this stuff up if you don't watch this one right away. If you are watching this right away, welcome to the semester. This is going to be about explaining some stuff that you're going to see in YouTube videos and tutorials. It's not specifically about anything that I expect you to use at any specific point during the class, but you'll probably find it handy at some point during the class. It's just kind of a general utility belt item that is a good idea to know something about. You will find yourself lost without it once in a while. Don't sweat it. Look up a tutorial, figure it out. None of it's very hard. You can go pretty deep, but you don't really have to most of the time. So the window I have open here in front of me, this guy, is a SSH into this virtual machine instance that's on the Google Cloud Platform. Now, what that means is that this little instance is a chunk of a real computer that exists somewhere. So that computer is probably a big server rack in a server farm somewhere. And to be honest, I'm not even sure that it's one place. It might be distributed. But roughly, this is a little tiny copy of a computer that's created with a piece of software. So this little tiny copy of a computer is running Linux. And what I have open here is an SSH, but that doesn't matter. It just amounts to a bash terminal. So you can open this up on a Linux machine in a variety of ways. Usually, I mean, honestly, the Linux that I've always used boots into these. But you can get into it a number of ways. It is just a bash terminal. Google, Ubuntu or whatever it is that you're using in bash terminal, and you'll get a result on how to open one. So let me show you a little bit of the utility of these things. Now, this is the utility of all of these things. Basically, this is the back end of your computer. This lets you do stuff that is pretty down and dirty and at the bottom, so it gives you a lot of power. Do be a little careful with these things. You can actually jack stuff up. So first command is just show me what's in here. In bash, that's ls. Let me pull up a command window. So the rest of this computer is running on Windows, right? So I'm going to open up a command prompt window. That's this guy. And then just for kicks, let me also get a PowerShell window here. Okay, so really fundamentally, I would love to have a terminal window right here, but I don't have a Mac OS on here. So I'm just going to type ls into all of these. So I typed ls into that one, I typed ls into this one. Okay, ls isn't a command in the command window, but it was in PowerShell. So this is one of the secrets for me for these programs. Frankly, oftentimes I don't remember what the commands are. And really, honestly, sometimes you don't have to. Like, the commands are pretty similar because the same people care about this stuff. That said, things do get more complex. So let's see if we can figure out what it is in command prompt. If I need help, I'm going to type help. I'm going to see what I got. Let's see. So if I read the help documentation, right, I'm just like going down. Okay, CD is one I use all the time. That's change directory. There's another. Where is my... So it's a little bit unfortunate that this is in a command window because I can't just control F it, right? Okay, so other option is I'm just gonna get up a Google window and be like, all right, cmd list files. Oh shit, stupid. It's the dir command. Of course it is. And you can see actually that I already have one of these open on my computer. That's running on Minecraft server. Okay, so there's dir, right? That outputs everything that's in C users J manlif J. You can see the same thing over here, right? Those give me the same stuff. On my Linux, on my bash terminal, you'll see that the file system's considerably less complicated there. That's because that computer has one thing and one thing alone on it, right? That virtual machine only runs the Discord bot. So all it has on it is 2 copies of the Discord bot. So that's it. So this one's not very interesting, but let me move around in there a little bit. So let me say I want to change into the master branch folder, list out what's in there. Okay, so let me do that same thing on one of these. Oh, I have a music folder on here? Let's go see what's in that. Nothing. There's nothing in the music folder? So notice you can get to the same places here in the File Explorer, right? So this is giving you a nice convenient, oops, that was too big. This is giving you a nice convenient way to go through some of this crap without clicking in all the windows and stuff. If you're looking for a specific folder or something, this can be a convenient way to do it. One of the other things that you can do in here is you can run Python, you can run Java. So like in here, if I just type Python, now what I have running here is a command version of Python that exists in the music folder, right? So this right now is running as though there was a Python script that's right now empty in the music folder. And it works just like a Python script. So I can say something like, let x be 10, and then if I want to print x, I can print x out, okay? So you'll see people use this in YouTube videos all the time because they don't want to be hassled to write a friggin' script all the time. So they'll just pull this thing up and start showing you commands in the command window, and that's totally fine, right? It works just like regular Python. The indentation gets a little weird, so you just got to get used to it. I don't tend to do this because, frankly, I really, really like to have a record of what I did. So I like to write scripts, but other people are other people. In fact, because I like to write scripts so much, let me show you the one other tool I care about that you can use here. And that's going to be a Windows tool because I don't have a Mac available. If you want to do this on Mac, it's called a shell script. On Windows, it's called a bash file. So I'm going to open a Notepad document. I'm going to hit Save As. I'm going to save this. Actually, I'm going to save this in that music file just because I can. And you need to be a little careful with this. So you will have to change the file extension. Sometimes that's a pain in the ass on Windows. If you have to look up a tutorial on how to do it, go ahead. It's no big deal. It takes a second to figure out. There's a setting somewhere. And on this, I'm going to name this thing test.bat. So BAT is a batch file. So what that means is that this thing is going to run as though it was in the command window. All right. So I'm going to hit save on this. Okay, so into this, I'm going to add just a couple of things that I already know how to do. So I'm going to do an ls, oops, sorry, I said I was going to run commands. So I'm going to do a dir, and then I'm going to do a make dir. So this is going to make a directory. So I'm going to make another folder, or I'm going to make another folder. And I hope that it appears where I think it will. Let's see, and I'm pretty sure that's going to need strings. You guys can see that I don't frankly use this to make folders really ever, but you can. So let's try it and we'll see. Okay, so I saved this, closed it. Let's see, I had that thing open someplace. Music. All right, so I have my test.bat. Now, what this is this is clickable. So if I click this, you see that really brief, hey, look at that. So you see the window pop up and then disappear. So that's a command window. That's one of these guys popping up. It probably did in LS. It was just too fast for me to see. And then it did make this folder, and I can see that I didn't actually need the quotes there, right? Okay, so let me go back in here. PS, if you double click on it, it's just going to do it again. So if you want to edit it, you have to hit right click and hit edit. And the default for these is usually Notepad, but if it opens up in something bizarre, just use open with to open it in Notepad. Okay, so there's a bunch of different cool shit you can do with a batch file. Let me show you my favorite thing. So this, again, it's like, all right, it did a thing. That's not particularly interesting. It is a slightly faster way to make a folder, I guess. No, it's not. It took forever. Okay, so this is what I usually use them for. If I have a command that I'm being asked to run in a terminal just over and over and over again, and it's kind of annoying to write, like it's just long, or I have to copy and paste it from somewhere, I tend to create a bash file or a batch file to do that. So here's this one that opens my Minecraft server. So I don't have to remember what the hell it is. I don't have to remember all this kind of gobbledygook. I can just say we're running Java and we're running the server.jar file in no GUI mode. This tells it to expect a jar file. These are things about memory allocation. Sure, they're great, but like, shit, man, once you figure it out, don't figure it out every time again. Just stick it in a batch file, and then you can just double-click the batch file, and the server will launch. This, by the way, is convenient in that you can still run commands in it. So let me pull my server over here. So this here, Minecraft server, you can see it's compiling all this junk. If you want to run commands on the server, so right now this is inside the server. So if I wanted to replace blocks and stuff, I could just type that stuff in here. Like if I wanted to DOP myself, I could do that right here. Oh, whoops, that just closed. Let's put that back up. Okay, so you can see that when I double clicked on the file, right, it says exactly the command, right? So it just essentially put this command into the terminal and hit enter. I know it doesn't seem super fancy, but it's really convenient. You will find yourself using these things, especially if you have a remote instance or a VM like this. Like this guy right here. That's my only way into that machine. It just doesn't have a head on it. It doesn't have a GUI. That's what there is. So if I want to do something with that machine, this is my only portal into it, which is sometimes annoying, but also means that that thing's real fast. This thing is smaller than a Raspberry Pi, and it's running a relatively complicated piece of code, and it's been up. Like, I don't have to worry about PG&E shutting the power off. That thing's been on for, shit, I don't know. Let's see. See if we can get the help. Is there uptime? There we go. So this instance has been up 106 days since its last restart, and my guess is that means the Discord bot's been up that whole time too. So if you want to take a deep dive into this stuff, please do. Note, I have not shown you the full utility of PowerShell. PowerShell is a big beast. It's got a lot of stuff in it. The thing I'll tell you about PowerShell is that it's important to understand that it's got this verb-noun structure to it. So if you want to do something, you want to get dash help. And there's a whole bunch of YouTube videos where people say the word dash about 1,000 friggin' times because they because they go through these commands, right? There are people who use PowerShell for a ton of stuff. I'm really impressed by power users with PowerShell. I am not one of them, but it is a good skill to have in your repertoire, and it's also one that not very many people actually have, so it's a nice niche to be in. That said, Bash works in most things. PowerShell interprets Bash, Mac Terminal interprets Bash, Linux obviously interprets Bash. So you can almost always get to a Bash shell regardless, or something that will recognize itself as a Bash shell. So don't be afraid to pick up a little Bash. It's a good idea. You're not going to use it every single day probably, but you will use it sometimes. The other thing is those batch files. They're super handy, especially if you're working on automating stuff or you want to come in and have a bunch of programs be open all at once. Some people use them to set up their desktop. You can put them in the start folder, and then when the computer starts, it'll start automating tasks. At least one of our researchers at the school has a whole series of batch files that automate a bunch of stuff that he used to have to click his way through every morning. Like he used to come in and pull a bunch of reports and then move a bunch of files and then update a bunch of crap. And one day he got a little bit of downtime, so he wrote some bash scripts to do or batch files to do the whole thing. And now every day at 7:30 in the morning, his computer recognizes what time it is, runs all these batch files. They do all this pulling, pushing, and moving around for him. And he comes in and the day's data is already moved. So then he can start actually doing his job, which is like looking at it instead of, pushing files around, which is boring. So look into this as an automation tool. There'll be a couple little assignments, but nothing huge.